let's use this little sketch drawing to utilize some of the commands that are in the information drop-down menu. That'll help us get an idea of the way that this drawing is done and how it is set up. It's been done in feet and inches, so let's have a little look at some distances. So information, the distance command, we can measure from one side, say, of the site to another just by going click, and if you look down in the command area it says where's the next point, and we'll click from over here and we get 282.809. So this is some 200 feet in size. When we come into this small rectangle here, I'll click on it and it's one complete rectangle. If I select it and right click and explode, that breaks it up, or should break it up. I think you have to do that twice. That breaks it up into its constituent lines. So we could now accurately measure the length of that line. We could go information distance from there across to there. So that line represents, say, a border of a garden area 8 feet long. So clearly this plant is way too big. So let's just move it out of the way for the moment. We'll move it out of the way. Well, not necessarily too big. That could be an enormous plant. So if we measured its distance from here across to here, so that's a plant 44 foot in diameter, which is clearly not correct. So let's just move to the side here and let's construct a rectangle using feet and inches of a much smaller size, and then we'll check our measurements again. So I'll go draw a line. Whoops, the snap must be on, so we'll go snap off. Now draw line, and we'll start here and we'll head off in this direction. As I move my mouse around, notice that the beige indicator shows when my line's going to be orthogonal. In other words, it's going to be horizontally. Now let's imagine that this site was 25 feet 9 inches, so we'd go 25.75 decimal feet, and there's our line. And let's imagine that a site that we were working on was 28.5 feet long, or 28 feet 6 inches. So we go so it's 28.5 and hit the enter key. We can now come across in this direction and then back up again to close it. But I'll just put 2 lines in for the moment. To check things, we use again this information and distance. So we can, information distance, we can go from there across to there. To gain some more accuracy, we can say snap end. So in our distance command, first point, note down here, first point, snap to the end, come across to the end, 24.75 feet. 25 feet 9 inches is the length. Now, you don't have to use the information distance one, but we could select the line itself, right click and go to properties. Now the properties box tells us a lot. It gives the actual length, 25.7. So let's just zoom out and look at the drawing. So clearly these plants are the wrong size, and we need to size them correctly. Now let's move this plant into position in the corner there and roll in. Now that might represent a small grass, which might be about 2 feet in diameter. So we can just select it, scale it. You can scale in this way. That looks to be a more realistic size, so we'll move it into position now, and we'll just check again distance from one side to the other. It's still 4 foot, so we can halve it again. So scale, pop it down there, and 0.5, we'll have a grass that is of reasonable size. Now we can copy it and put multiple copies into the plan. So I hope that gives you some idea of how you go about measuring things and placing things in the GardenCAD environment. What you can do now is draw, dimension, and dim linear, and you could snap to the end of that line and to the end of that line, and bingo, the dimensions go in. So that's 25.75 feet across there, and in contrast, we're dealing here, if this is correct, we're dealing here with a very, very large site.